Welcome to Bond Report 1. We give this, today's topic is doctor, provider, what's it matter, what's in a name? About, I would say 20, 25 years ago, you were always a doctor before that, but now government/insurance would continually refer to you as a provider. That was their word. You were a provider for this or a provider for that. You were never a doctor or a surgeon. I've never been sure what that's in aid of, but basically Grantland Rice said that in an old thing. It's not whether you win or lose, but how you place the blame. I don't know who to place the blame on that. Orwell saying the more a society drifts from truth, the more it'll hate those who speak it. Don't know why you did that. As is true, you do learn something every day, but a lot of the time what you learn today is what you learned yesterday was not true. People add to the truth. They put other things on there. They're thinking that it's clarifying truth. Usually that becomes less true. Solzhenitsyn saying that. Who sees the face correctly, said Picasso. The photographer, the mirror, the painter, somebody else who sees that. So what's in a name? There's some other good things. What is in a name? Well, never date a woman whose nickname is Big Daddy. Mark Twain said a mine. What's a mine? Well, a mine is a hole in the ground with a liar standing next to it. Aldous Huxley, whose name will crop up again in this talk, said experience teaches only the teachable. Experience is the name people give to their mistakes, but that's the word you use. Let's experience, this has been my experience. Experience is the word basically of mistakes you made. The experience is what you get when you're trying to get something else. Churchill said that if you want to know the power of a name, all you have to do is call everything by its real name. And in a couple of weeks, you won't be able to go out of your house. That's very true. As you get a little older, you learn to see the truth of that. Conan Doyle redefining himself. I am not a psychopath, young man. I am a completely functioning sociopath. Do your research. Talking about Augustus, Michael Grant here is his biography of Caesar Augustus. He never called anything by his right name, a sure sign of power, of real power. What's in a name? We see Aldous Huxley again. The author of the Iliad is either Homer or someone else of the same name. That's one of my favorite quotes all the time. What is in a name? The instructions also used to be very much different. This is a true story. When Atari came out with a Klingon, the Star Trek game, the instructions in their entirety for the machine were insert quarter, kill Klingons. This is how self-explanatory the insurance before everything started to get renamed. And basically, whenever something like that happens, you start to suspect that, gee, why are they changing the name of this for no apparent reason? What is the real thing of this? This is Nietzsche saying they muddy the water to make it seem deep. So what exactly is going on there? And in my day, Peter Ustinov said, there were ways of doing things that were not done. There were things that were not done, but there were ways of doing things that were not done. And this probably is related to that. That's a Peter Ustinov quote. And one starts to believe also it's very difficult that this is some kind of actual, be a conspiracy theorist, but it's hard to keep up. It's difficult to explain to a man, to make a man understand when his salary depends on his not understanding. Every person, is a skeptic about his profession that's really mastered it. I used this one before, but junior soprano, talking to Tony. Well, gee, I always said that kid was stupid. Tony said his mother told me he had kind of a learning disability. Junior said, that's what stupid is, right? Brigham Young attributed the plural of spouse as spice. And perhaps it is. I've never seen it like that outside the dictionary. Politeness, Madame de Staël said, is the art of choosing among one's thoughts. You're trying to get the correct name for what you're thinking and perhaps not say what you're thinking at all. One begins to suspect, this is Lawrence Beria, one of the great evil men in history, saying, go to hell. Well, where do you think I came from? Who are the guys doing this? Who is the government? Who is the people that are doing something that they're just going to do and they don't want to talk about it? You're not a doctor anymore, you're a provider. And so how do people act? Oh, we're the providers for this, we're the providers for that. And, it's hard to teach somebody something. People get used to it. The kids come in, don't know any different. So it's hard for the children to learn any manners if they've never seen any, said Fred Astaire. it was like you didn't notice. Nobody will object, especially if nobody notices. Hippocrates, talking about the profession, no one should call himself a physician. Here's the word physician, doctor, things like that, without a thorough knowledge of astrology. What word will we use when we don't want to use doctor, surgeon, physician? Well, let's try provider, because then it can be any collection of a bunch of people, and you can define them any way you like for the purposes of your insurance. And I think what they're trying to do is make doctors anonymous. People don't want to go to a particular thing. You don't go to a certain doctor, an MD, my doctor, so-and-so. You go to an organization, and the organization decides who you see, and maybe you see different guys all the time. This is basically an industrial revolution, and you're going away from a cottage industry into a assembly line model, more in a factory model, and you're losing some of that common touch. And these guys have decided that's the way they're going to go long term. And one of the first things they do is get you ready for that approach by, let's get the word surgeon or doctor out of there, and you're a provider. Let's go to my anonymous provider situation. So we have the dictionary definition there, and well, they might. You're a provider of this, you're a provider of that. That also makes you seem like you're a rung down. You're providing an actual tangible service, like a guy selling peanuts, rather than consultation, rather than the deeper things. So basically, your doctor is spare parts. The old-time doctors, when you'd have that mirrored light on your head, you're basically now a union worker. You're a union man. You're wearing that thing on a coal miner. I saw that and was reminded of a coal miner thing. Do you see the resemblance? I mean, you can see that. As you're a provider, you're a little more a guy that's a cog in a machine rather than doing this, and you start to get the look. Well, let's all be providers. I'm thinking of an old Three Stooges movie. Now you're not a doctor anymore, you're a provider. Coming over the loudspeaker, Provider Howard, Provider Fine, Provider Howard. It's got to be somebody who's a doctor. Now, when they speak at Dr. Frankenstein, when Mary Shelley wrote Frankenstein when she's 19 years old, he was a medical student. He wasn't a doctor. So really, it wouldn't be Provider Frankenstein or Dr. Frankenstein, although nobody elaborates that. In the movies, he's Dr. Frankenstein. But Victor Frankenstein was a medical student, not an MD, and was studying. Now, Dr. No, in the James Bond movies, the James Bond villain, first name Julius. Second thing, Goldfinger's first name is Auric, but this is an even better surefire bar bet to win, is Dr. Julius No was in fact a doctor. I don't know where he matriculated from or did his higher learning, but he'd be Provider No. Provider Seuss, that would be a good thing. Ted Geisel going into that business, he'd be Provider Seuss. Provider Dre. Provider Zhivago, Provider Faustus, let's make a deal. Provider Doom. Provider Gooden. What's up, Prov? You could go back to the old Warner Brothers movie, The Seven Dwarfs. The boss dwarf was Doc. The guy supposedly that worked for Warner Brothers didn't like his doctor and wanted to make Doc kind of bossy and fussy and things like that. But that's the original Doc, Prov himself. So this would be Prov. Gee, is there a provider in the house? Questions providers should ask themselves regularly. There was a magazine article I saw. And all this basically changing the words is in the words there of The Age of Reason of Thomas Paine. This is kind of the talk of conjurers who picked up common lingo and they throw it around to make themselves sound educated. Situations that could be used in Provider Livingston, I presume. You watch some Star Trek? Damn it, Jim, I'm just a provider. Provider Phil. Well, how's that whole provider thing working out for you? Well, seen better, seen worse. If your time ain't come, Huckleberry Finn saying this, not even a doctor can kill you. But now it would be not even a provider can kill you. Provider Strangelove, a giant bank of computers. You can't fight in here. This is a war room. Provider Brown. Whatever you do, Marty, don't go back to 2020. Provider Holiday. We talked about him the other day. Now, Provider Jekyll, was a doctor. Mr. Hyde, I'm not sure, did any advanced studies or anything, and it's unsure whether it'd be Mr., but probably they could both be providers. since you're calling anybody you want a provider, which is the idea of the whole thing. You could get academic guys. No guarantee of wisdom is academic, but provider of philosophy. This is now the new word. The data was found to have been heavily provided. We're a spin provider. Script was found to have been heavily provided. Wouldn't you like to be a provider? Provider Pepper, Sherlock Holmes, and Provider Watson. You know, not as euphonious perhaps, but there's a word there. We have children. Let's play provider. Damn it, Jim, once again, I'm just a provider, but the analogy that he uses in what could be more mere, you know, I'm just a provider. That it's meant to be a peg down so you can adjust your insurance rates, do those other things, take a lot of the things out of the profession and make it a common thing. Went for a game show. What can we provide for the providers, Johnny? That's where it's going, and that's probably not a good thing. Thank you very much. Tell your friends. Please watch more Bond Reports.